General Hospital spoilers tease that Brennan's death has officially been confirmed, closing a dark and tangled chapter in General Hospital's storyline. However, this ending doesn't bring relief or order. Rather, it marks the beginning of a new, dangerous storm with dire consequences. For Brennan, a man who always considered himself the one controlling everything from the shadows, being removed from the board is not something he can easily accept. In his heart, this failure feels like betrayal, being exposed, and losing the power he once held. Because of this, even after his end, Brennan refuses to let go. He leaves one final blow, a meticulously prepared, cold, and ruthless crime, just like his own nature. A crime not only for personal revenge but to prove that even when removed from the game, he can still create an aftershock large enough to shake Port Charles. This new attack is directly aimed at Sonny, the man Brennan despises to the core. Sonny, the man who has survived countless enemies, built his empire step by step with toughness and resilience, is now the target of a plan designed to destroy him, physically and mentally. Brennan doesn't just want Sonny to fall, he wants him to suffer, to lose everything, and to watch everything he holds dear be destroyed beyond repair. This attack is not a spur-of-the-moment action. It is the result of a series of calculated moves, preparations, and covert actions Brennan had been setting up before everything collapsed. And when it happens, Port Charles will have no time to defend itself. Whether it's a massive explosion, a violent invasion, or even an internal betrayal, anything could be the final strike Brennan leaves behind. And though he has been removed from the scene, his shadow still lingers, as a curse that Sonny must now bear. The damage this time is profound. It's not just about assets or lives, but trust, the fragile sense of safety Sonny had been trying to maintain after each crisis. His loved ones could be swept into danger, the innocent could suffer harm, and even his most loyal allies may begin to question their trust as they see Sonny unable to stop this from happening. Port Charles, once again, falls into an unstable spiral, and this time, no one can predict who will be the next to bear the consequences. Sonny, who's used to endless battles, now faces an enemy who has died but still wins in another way, through fear, devastation, and helplessness that Brennan left behind. Brennan, though gone from the stage, still leaves his mark like a scar etched deeply into the portrait of life in Port Charles. And so, Brennan's departure is not the end, but the beginning of a series of haunting repercussions. The question now is no longer, who is behind the explosion, but, what will Sonny do to survive a nightmare his enemy set in motion before disappearing? Can he rise again, or will Port Charles witness a Sonny's complete downfall? What happens next will decide not only Sonny's fate but also reshape the entire balance of power, loyalty, and the new order in Port Charles. And in every peaceful moment, the people here will always have to ask, is this the end, or just the calm before the next storm? Sonny's penthouse once again becomes the target of an attack, marking a dangerous escalation in the tangled events unfolding in Port Charles. Although it was previously believed that with Brennan's end, all dangers had been temporarily controlled, the reality reveals something entirely different. The remnants from the past, the forces still silently working in the shadows, and the unresolved grudges are slowly returning, and this time, they aren't just targeting Sonny's power, reputation, or life, they're going straight for his biggest weakness, his health and the heart that is weakening more and more. Sonny, who once symbolized power and control in the underground world, is now slowly being worn down by time and pressure. The truth that he's been battling a persistent heart condition all along can no longer be kept hidden. What once seemed like fatigue from stress is now becoming a serious issue. As the attacks on him grow more frequent, Sonny's health begins to deteriorate rapidly. Chest pains become more common, recovery time after each psychological shock takes longer than usual, and in those rare moments of weakness, a mix of fear, helplessness, and silent anger starts to grow inside him. The attack on the penthouse is not just an act of vandalism, it's a clear declaration of war from an unseen force still lurking. It's carefully planned, striking at the moment when Sonny is at his most exhausted, physically and mentally. The damage isn't just material, it's a psychological blow to a man who has survived countless purges and battles, but now finds himself trapped in his own home, the one place once considered an impregnable fortress. The most heartbreaking part is that Sonny is starting to realize his own limits, no longer as sharp as he once was, no longer able to make the tough decisions he once did, and, most importantly, no longer confident that he can protect the people he loves. One of the biggest shocks isn't the explosion or the damage to property, but the fact that Sonny's heart condition is turning him into someone he no longer recognizes. The feeling of losing control is spreading, and this only makes his enemies stronger, more confident. Each attack on Sonny now isn't just a test of his physical strength, but a brutal mental battle. The people closest to him, Nina, Carly, Christina, and even former allies like Jason, begin to see this terrifying change. They notice the vacant look in Sonny's eyes as he tries to hide his pain, the exhaustion in his voice, and they realize he's fighting not just against external enemies, but against himself. The repeated attacks are throwing Port Charles into a level of tension it has never experienced before. The people are worried, the police are caught off guard, and while the clues about who's behind the incidents remain unclear, all eyes are on Sonny. But this time, he can't just bounce back immediately. He can't roar back in defiance like he used to. Instead, he can only quietly struggle, battling with a heart that is growing weaker with each chaotic beat. Sonny's story now is no longer about power or fame in the underworld, it's a fierce battle for survival, where every decision, every choice is tied to life and death. His heart, both literally and figuratively, is being tested to its absolute limit. And unless someone stands by him, unless Sonny learns to accept that he needs help, it's only a matter of time before the next blow ends it all. In a world where loyalty is fragile, where enemies can disguise themselves as friends, and where illness spares no one, even the once invincible, Sonny's growing weakness will become an opportunity for his remaining enemies to rise, for buried secrets to surface, and for Port Charles to enter a new era of chaos. And if that happens, it won't just be a shock for Sonny, it'll be a shock that shakes the very foundation of a world always on the edge of darkness and collapse. Jocelyn is truly in shock as new truths are revealed about Brennan's actions she never believed him capable of, especially such a brutal crime. Every detail is exposed, each word, each look, and every quiet presence of Brennan around her throughout the past now comes together to form the perfect piece in a dark picture, where Jocelyn realizes how naive she was, how easily misled she was, and now faces the haunting thought that she was too close to a monster disguised as a good man. It's not just betrayal or panic that hurts Jocelyn, it's the way Brennan quietly manipulated everything, even her own emotions and instincts. Jocelyn has always been strong, resolute, but this time, the psychological scars Brennan left in her mind are deeper than anything she's ever experienced. It's no longer just a fear, it's a mental wound that makes her question everything she once believed. She no longer knows what's real, what's fake, and that only intensifies the shock, pushing her into a new journey, one where emotions are replaced by action. In her panic, Jocelyn finds a burning determination inside herself, driving her to act. Seeing Sonny hurt, seeing her family in danger, seeing Port Charles on edge from these continuing attacks, Jocelyn knows she must act. No longer just the girl who reacts to what happens, Jocelyn is slowly transforming into a true fighter, not just for herself, but for the people she loves. She begins gathering information, contacting trusted allies, asking the right questions, and slowly building her own defense system to protect Sonny from any future blow. It's no longer an impulsive action of a young girl, but a reaction driven by pain and resolve. Jocelyn understands that if she doesn't take control, Brennan, whether alive or having left remnants behind, will continue to cause unhealable wounds. And so, the battle between Jocelyn and Brennan officially begins. It's not a battle with guns or power, but a mental battle, a clash of wills and strength. Brennan may have made Port Charles tremble in fear, but Jocelyn, with her loyalty, love for Sonny, and desire to protect her family, has become an opponent he can't underestimate. Every step she takes now is calculated, cautious, and determined because she knows that even the smallest mistake could lead to serious consequences. She no longer acts like a girl who's been hurt, but as a symbol of resistance, a young warrior ready to stand between the darkness and the light, even if it costs her safety, emotions, or her youth. The battle between Jocelyn and Brennan is no longer just a story between two people. It's a metaphor for the rise of a new generation, daring to face the past, protect the present, and change the future. Port Charles will soon realize that Jocelyn is no longer a side character in the grand picture, but someone holding the key to many uncovered secrets. And in this silent but fierce battle, she'll not only fight for Sonny but for herself, to regain trust, find peace, and erase the haunting Brennan left behind in her mind, once and for all. Sonny became the next victim in a series of brutal attacks believed to be carried out by Brennan. This time, the consequences were no longer just emotional scars or distant threats, but the painful reality of Sonny suffering severe burns in a direct assault inside his own penthouse apartment. In the past, Sonny had faced numerous enemies, engaged in countless intellectual battles, and come close to death many times, but he had never been reduced to a state of paralysis, helplessness, and agonizing pain like he was now. The wounds on his body not only put him in critical condition, but they also symbolized the destruction of the protective wall that had once made Sonny untouchable. The attack was not just a physical blow but the most severe psychological strike he had ever faced, forcing him, and those around him, to acknowledge a harsh truth: Sonny no longer possessed the same strength he once had. Sonny's condition was deemed extremely serious by doctors in Port Charles, with extensive burns and potential internal complications. Local specialists were almost unable to provide a suitable treatment plan that would ensure a full recovery. Under pressure, those closest to him, including Carly, Nina, Dante, and Jocelyn, were forced to make a life-altering decision. Sonny needed to leave Port Charles and the United States to seek treatment at an international medical center in Germany, where the most advanced burn treatment and long-term rehabilitation technologies were available. Sonny's departure for treatment quickly created a wave of public opinion, not just among the characters in the show, but also within the General Hospital fan community. This event coincided with the growing rumors about Maurice Benard, the veteran actor who had portrayed Sonny for over 2 decades, possibly leaving the show. Although the producers had not confirmed it officially, Sonny's severe injury and his need to leave for overseas treatment were seen as a quiet but significant farewell, leaving the audience shocked and regretful. Messages circulating on fan forums and emotional comments on social media all shared a common concern: could this be the end of an iconic character, one that General Hospital could never replace? Sonny's departure would create a massive void in the show's narrative structure. He was not just a central character, but the link between a multitude of characters, families, enemies, friends, major storylines, and complex emotional arcs that had persisted for years. Sonny was the patriarch of the Corinthos family, the central figure of Port Charles's underground world, a husband, lover, friend, and spiritual father to an entire generation of characters. With his absence, all these connections began to falter. Carly might once again be burdened with leadership duties, Nina would have to face loneliness and deep self-doubt, Jocelyn would wrestle with guilt over not being able to protect the man she had always considered a second father, and Dante would be caught in difficult choices between duty and personal feelings. On the other hand, old enemies, from Cyrus to other hidden forces, could take advantage of Sonny's absence, plunging Port Charles further into chaos. Furthermore, Sonny's departure opened a new chapter for General Hospital, one whose direction no one could predict. Would a new character rise to take Sonny's place in the underworld? Would his absence lead to peace in Port Charles, or would it create a power vacuum, with various factions fighting for dominance, resulting in even more dangerous conflicts? Would Sonny truly return after his treatment, or was this the writer's way of ending a long journey to make room for a complete overhaul of the plot and character lineup? Whatever the answer, one thing was undeniable: Sonny's departure, both in the story and in real life, was a monumental event that could reshape the entire structure of General Hospital. Sonny was not just a part of the plot, he was a part of its memory, an icon, and a vital heartbeat that helped define the soul of Port Charles. And now, with a broken heart, a burned body, and a heavy past, Sonny said goodbye to his hometown, carrying not only the hope of healing but also the anxious and grateful gazes of those who had, and would always, remember him. And Port Charles, without Sonny, would have to learn to survive, or fade in the shadow he left behind. Michael and Jocelyn were stepping into a new era, a phase where they would no longer be merely the children of the Corinthos family but would officially rise to inherit Sonny's role: the father, the brother, the symbol of power and influence not only in Port Charles but across the underground world of General Hospital. Sonny's withdrawal after the brutal attack had left too large a void, one that no one could fill without determination, resilience, and a heart willing to make sacrifices. But in that seemingly dark moment, Michael and Jocelyn rose, not as passive heirs, but as true warriors ready to step into danger. Michael, with his calm demeanor, strategic mind, and a heart that was both cold and full of honor, began managing the relationship Sonny had left behind. He didn't dive into the underworld with violence or vengeance but used his understanding, analysis, and the power networks he had built over the years, staying in the shadows. Meanwhile, Jocelyn became the emotional and action-driven point of the storyline, bringing rebellion, strong character, and idealism. After everything Brennan had caused, she was no longer the innocent girl haunted by guilt, but was slowly turning into a key part of the resistance, ready to step into the light and even do the unthinkable, succeed the very role Brennan once held, becoming the director of WSB. What seemed impossible was becoming one of General Hospital's biggest and most explosive storylines this year. Jocelyn, once a victim, who had been through a lie detector test, was now being watched by WSB as a potential leader capable of controlling the entire intelligence network, national security operations, and covert activities. This not only shocked Port Charles but also unsettled the WSB community, which had suffered from Brennan's betrayal. Jocelyn was the only one daring enough to face Brennan, question him, and expose him, making her the top candidate to restore the organization's credibility, which was now on the brink of collapse. Her choice wasn't just about personal change, it would shift the entire narrative axis. A young woman, with ideals, who had suffered because of the organization's betrayal, was now stepping up to lead it, symbolizing how the past was overturned, and the future was being reshaped by those who seemed out of place in positions of power. Michael and Jocelyn, now, were no longer standing behind Sonny, they had become the ones holding the keys to shaping the future power dynamics, from Port Charles to WSB, from the underground world to the political, military, and global strategy spheres. However, the pressure they faced was immense. For Michael, it was the burden of Sonny's legacy, doubts from former allies, and opposition from forces that didn't trust the new generation. For Jocelyn, it was the pressure from the very organization she was about to inherit, the haunting legacy left by Brennan, and her own fear that if she failed, she would not only bring down a system but lose herself in the whirlpool of power. Nevertheless, this explosion of change was irreversible. General Hospital was redrawing the order with bold, heavy strokes, handing the future to the younger generation, those who had once been on the sidelines but now had hearts that refused to be broken. Michael and Jocelyn weren't just following Sonny's path, they were rewriting the rules, redefining power, and opening a new era that everyone would have to be wary of. And when the lights in Sonny's penthouse went out, a new symbol was being lit, not by brutality, but by faith, maturity, and the ability to lead a world full of instability with hands that once seemed too weak. But those hands were now making history in Port Charles, where Michael stood in the shadows to protect the system, and Jocelyn stepped into the light of WSB, becoming the most unexpected face of power, loyalty, and rebirth after the haunting.